I'm Rachel Alday, and this is the Hospitality Breakroom, a podcast full of nuggets and secret sauce, where every Monday we'll shed light on what we've learned from the countless mistakes we've made along our journey in the chaotic and rewarding world of vacation rentals. Welcome back to the Hospitality Breakroom. I'm Rachel Alday, and today I have with me Tilly. And Tilly does reservation sales, but she is our Reservation Sales Manager. Am I saying that right? Okay. I'm really bad at titles. I kind of always
And it's
hate
a
them.
new title, so
it's true. That role is fairly new.
Yeah.
And Tilly has been with Abode for 9 years.
Almost 10 in June.
And she's been through a lot of changes in the organization and in the way that we organize our reservation sales department, and in a lot of changes as our company grew and all the different departments that we never used to have that we have now, and how we never had managers and then we did, and then we never had directors and now we do. So it's been a long and winding road, and Tilly has stuck with us through all of it. So that's kind of amazing. So you want to tell the story of what it was like when you started at Abode and how that felt and how it all got to today?
So when I interviewed, it was in a basement office on Main Street, underground.
Literally a closet.
Like dark
closet
closet.
with a window. Well, the window was into a dark hallway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not really a window, but it was a glass on a wall and it looked into a dark hallway.
I could see people walking from the parking lot to Main Street.
But they were walking like under the building.
Correct.
Yeah. You were looking at people walking under a building. Yeah. Okay.
And you had like your second child who was about 7 hours old.
For real.
Yep.
Well, wait, because you said you started in June.
My first day was June 15th, 2015.
So Major, our second, he's now 12. Sorry, he's 10. I have 3 kids. So I remember. Major just turned 10. And so he was born September 29th. So literally he was July, like 2.5 months old. Right?
I would have interviewed in like May.
Okay.
So he was 5 months.
Yeah.
He was tiny.
Yeah.
Itty bitty baby.
Yeah.
And I worked at a glass 1990s coffee table or glass dining room table.
It was from Walmart.
I think it was like from a property.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the glass table was like solid glass.
It was like a solid big glass dining room table.
I might have gotten that from like Wayfair, or maybe it was from a property.
And then the mid-century modern furniture.
Vintage. She means they were actual vintage pieces that I bought from like people's driveways.
Were wrapped in saran wrap in the office. And it was you, Carolyn, Rob, Cole, Brad.
And then Junior was our
No.
We didn't have him yet?
No. I was after Junior.
Okay.
Before Junior came back, and then
Okay.
I was after Junior, but the first salesperson you hired, because Cole was adopted.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. So I had like the whole interview process for the first time. I said to Cole, "Are you okay with me taking half of your income?"
Oh yeah,
because I was super ballsy.
Cole was like the first salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Listen, I know how to sell, even though I didn't."
Yeah, you did.
Well,
tell them what you did before here.
So my sales background is, like most, I preferred work over school. I think that's kind of a common theme sometimes for salespeople, maybe because they're, fast paced and like the thrill of the hunt and
like not a rule follower. I feel like a lot of times good salespeople are not here to like achieve just for someone else. It's like for yourself, for money.
Yeah.
Like good salespeople are driven by money.
Exactly.
I am too. Yeah.
Exactly. And I like the thrill of sales. So I started in 9th grade working for a friend's mom who did fundraising.
Okay.
And so I was her kind of behind the scenes person that like pitched the fundraising ideas, the prizes. I got the candy bars together, organized to take to the schools, and then got the awards for when whoever sold. So that was a neat way to see sales. And then I mean, timeshare. I waited
Oh, yeah.
tables forever. I was a waitress for many, many, many years, and
We always say, like, our favorite salespeople, like, I think the ones that, like, have worked out the best, or, like, maybe it just feels like the most, like, surefire, salesperson is someone who's worked in restaurants, I
for
think, and I'm
sure.
thinking about our team, and it's like, not everyone's done that, but I guess it's not been, like, our experience at work as much as, like, my intuition and Rob's. We've always felt like, oh, people that do really well at restaurants, like, have that it's
It
hospitality,
is. It's
actually.
hospitality for
Restaurant is
sure.
hospitality and it's sales.
And it's a higher level depending on where you're I mean, you have
Yeah.
to have a knowledge of, you know, big words
Yeah.
and be able to talk to all types of people.
And, like, solve problems with people that are gonna, like, always
Mhm.
be, like, there's a
Mm.
million variables and things can go wrong and you have to solve and, um,
Think on your feet.
solve problems, think on your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like that's what it is with vacation rentals and reservation sales that seems similar. Because I don't know that I would feel like that if we did hotel sales for reservations.
Or real estate
Right, it's different.
because it's so fast paced.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, real estate's, like, a lot slower.
I can't do that.
Yeah,
I need the fix.
okay,
I like the fix.
okay. Okay, so you had been in restaurant stuff,
Mhm. Yep.
and then what about the timeshare?
So I waited tables at this pretty popular restaurant in Salt Lake City. Very busy in the summer because it
Wait,
had a
what was it? I can't
Ruth's
remember. Oh,
Diner.
yeah, yeah, okay. Oh
Yes.
my god. Oh
So
my god.
huge
Okay.
patio.
Google Ruth's Diner in Salt Lake City. Okay.
Yes, great history of like this ballsy lady has a chihuahua and smoking a cigarette, and she was on oxygen. Ruth, she hauled up a train car up Immigration Canyon, and it was a diner for years and years and years, and then evolved. But I waited on this guy, and he was like, "You're wasting your talent here," and I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I sell timeshare. You should come and
Mhm.
you know apply at Snowbird." Changed my life. In your life, you can think back on like the Sliding Doors movie with
Yeah,
Gwyneth
yeah, yeah,
Paltrow,
totally. Yeah.
and I feel like that was a moment where it was like, I'm doing this. I like it. I live in Salt Lake. It was fine, but he opened up an world for me that I never ever thought was possible,
Yeah.
and I learned so much in selling timeshare
Yeah.
because it is a different beast for sure. It's one of those where I really liked it because you had to get really good at rejection.
Yeah. Your
And yeah.
timeshare would be rough because that's
Oh,
just a lot
so
of cold
rough.
calling, right?
Well, people got the carrot, the tease of the gift certificate
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah.
a night's stay or
So, like, were the people, like, when they were skiing or when they were, like, how did it start?
so different times of year there would be different kind of perks, gifts. So kind of in the off season, so shoulder seasons, they really reached out to people that lived in Salt Lake.
Uh-huh.
And I'll never forget, men would bring their wives up to take this hour and a half tour just to get a free dinner. And they'd bring their wives up on Mother's Day and be like, "Here's your gift. We're gonna get a
Where
dinner."
was the dinner?
It
Like,
was at the Cliff Club.
okay, yeah, yeah. Cliff Lodge, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Wait, because you worked in, timeshare for Westgate.
First, I started at Snowbird.
Okay.
Yep. And
Okay.
then it was again 100% commission. Being ADD, I struggle. Thank goodness I married the man that I am married to today. I really, really struggle with like keeping receipts and
Yeah.
keeping things organized and all of that. And so he keeps me on track with that, or has now. I don't need to do that as much, but um, so I was an independent contractor there, and my manager at the time had moved over to Westgate
Okay.
in Park City.
And Westgate is the company that ended up, they're the ones involved with what was that documentary?
Mhm.
What was it?
The
About the
Queen
big
of Versailles.
The Queen of Versailles. Okay, Google The Queen of
It's a
Versailles
really
for our
interesting
millions
movie.
of listeners. All of you should Google The Queen of Versailles
Yeah.
because that was the guy
David
that
Siegel.
owned Westgate
Yep.
okay,
David Siegel.
okay.
And they built an 80,000 square foot house
Right,
in
like
Florida,
in Florida, yeah.
like the size of a mall. Amazing. Amazing.
Okay.
Anyway, so my manager from Snowbird called me and said, "Do you want to come work at Westgate in Park City and be a commissioned person?" But what's crazy is my job was retention. And so I did all the documentations with people
Okay.
when, like, all the signing of the legal documents when they were buying the timeshare. But really, what I was doing was temperature checking them the whole time of like, are they going to cancel? Why did they buy this? Did they buy this because the salesperson lied or because nobody has an intention to buy that day.
Right.
And so it was an interesting kind of dance with working for the developer and making sure that it was a solid deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
didn't make friends in the
so
sales
there was like
department.
other people that were doing the initial like
Selling.
cold reaching out,
Yeah.
cold calling, and like theoretically selling. But then in order to like get the paper signed and get the money, you were doing that. So
But
it's like the
that's
second close.
which is what
Yeah.
exactly. Because it was a subconscious close because I looked like a notary public to them.
Yeah.
And I was really like, so why'd you buy this? And
Yeah.
did you think you would? And how are you going to use it? And it was just solidifying, or I'd blow the deal out and be like, hey, if you're only buying this because you can cancel in 5 days,
Right.
go home, think about it, which
Yeah.
is they're never coming back. So
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Interesting.
And then I sold motorcycles. And after that, I went to the power sports industry and sold motorcycles and
The
wave
stories
runners
from her
and-
motorcycle sales
Oh my
days
gosh.
are
Yeah.
insane. That's
Yeah.
a whole episode unto itself.
Yeah.
And then, okay, because when we, like,
Mhm.
had we met?
So I worked at the newspaper
Oh, yeah.
and I sold the ads
Yes.
for the local newspaper,
Yes,
which
which we
I
had bought
loved
some.
at
Okay.
that time. So I kind of learned that and I'm sure there's words for this, but there's a type of sale that you have something that you have to really describe and talk people into to buy.
Mhm.
And then, which is like the timeshare, or I did aesthetic medical marketing.
Yes, yeah.
Or there's what we have, like we have something that people basically sell themselves
Right.
because of the geographical location, the brand of Abode, the types of lodging.
Like how many bedrooms, location,
Right.
like they're selling themselves because they know, like, I want to be ski in, ski out. I want to be in Jackson Hole. I want to be there on these dates. And then they find the thing, like the lodging that they're looking for. Is
Yep.
that what you mean?
Or at least they come to us rather than
Got it. Okay.
we don't have to like reinvent the wheel and be like, this is something non-tangible. And
Oh, yeah. Because like with the newspaper, let's say you would call businesses and be like, do you guys want to do newspaper ads? Right.
Mhm.
Whereas with vacation rentals, it's people calling up. So
Right.
like inbound versus outbound.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So so I met you when I worked for the Park Record and my husband worked for the US ski team.
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys would be at Deer Valley at the World Cup events and
Yes.
things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And because I
Yep.
think I bought newspaper ads before we even started the business when I worked for the St. Regis developer.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then plus we've lived here for
Yeah, it's true.
eons,
Well,
forever.
Rob and I have been here. Rob's been here for 20 and I think I'm like 19. And you're what?
So I moved from
30?
Ohio in 1993.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Okay.
Long time.
So you're 30 something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
I don't know. I can't do
I mean, how
math.
can that be? Because you're only 29 years
I know,
old.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so we kind of knew each other, small town also. And honestly, we have the same name, but
It's true.
Yeah.
So Tilly goes by Tilly in our office because when she first came on, my name's Rachel. And so she was like, well, I need to have we shouldn't have the same name.
Right.
And I honestly at the time was like, why?
there's
Who
3
cares?
women who work at Abode.
Yeah. 2 of them
Rachel,
named
Rachel, and Carolyn.
But I mean, and Carolyn's not here anymore.
Right.
But it was her idea. She was like, because Rachel's last name is Tilton. And so she's like, I'll be Tilly. And it was such a good idea.
Best idea ever.
She was like, it's memorable.
Yep.
And anyway,
It's
completely true.
immediately disarming to people because it's usually it's easy for me to say because I think I say Julie or Kelly or something and I'm like, no, like your old Aunt Tilly.
Yeah.
And they never forget it. Or they say my dog growing up was Tilly, or there's a hat named Tilly. It's just,
Yeah.
it was such a small change, but such a huge,
I know it's
huge
a little
thing.
confusing for me though, because like now when we're out and about in town and like if we run into people and then sometimes I'll call you Tilly, like, oh, you know Tilly. And then I'm like thinking
But
they
people-
don't know her.
They
as
do.
that.
They do.
Okay.
There was a time when I first started that I would stop if I'm introducing myself for the first time to someone.
Yeah.
Should I say Rachel? Should I say Tilly? And now my name is Tilly with Abode. Like friends in Park City see me and they're
It's
like,
just weird.
it's
That's
Tilly from
crazy.
Abode. It's so crazy.
That's crazy.
It's crazy how important a name is. Like I urge people, like we have Christopher, Chris. We have a lot of Chris's. We've, nicknamed like Chris B,
That's just funny.
but we say crispy, like
Because
bacon.
there's a guy on our team who does reservation sales. And by the way, that sound you just probably heard was like, shh, shh.
Yeah.
I just poured myself if you're not watching the video, which I bet no one ever does, um, I poured myself some more Coke Zero and it made that fizzing sound. So
Mm.
sorry. Okay. But so there's someone on our team who does reservation sales. So he's on Tilly's team and his name's Chris Beckett. So they were calling him Chris B because there's another Chris.
Mhm.
And then he became Crispy.
Yeah. Right. So cute. Or, everyone gets their kind of nicknames.
His name's Crispy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So Tilly started, we were 9
Tiny.
years ago,
Yep.
and we've been around for like, I think almost 17 years now. Is it official? Maybe it's well into the 17. I don't know. I tend to say,
I say 14.
yeah, I say like, I said 15 for like 2 years. I said 16 for more than a year. So we're somewhere in the 17, I think.
It's kind of like Poppy the dog. He was
Yeah, my
always
dog.
like 5 years old.
Until
Always.
he was like 18.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we were, when she started, we had a really small, it was our first office actually. And it was literally a closet and we had this really small team. And is that kind of where we left off?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And she came on and she created a new name for herself.
Yep.
That has stuck. Okay.
I will say that looking back, advice that I would give
Oh, I like this. Yeah.
is as soon as you know that you have the job, if you're going to be in sales, immerse yourself in studying the properties
Yeah.
immediately because
I feel like you did that.
I
didn't you?
did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as soon as we all agreed, I dove into the website
Mhm.
and started to know the names of the properties. The betting is huge because I personally can't sell something that I don't know
Yes.
intrinsically.
Yeah.
So
Like the bedding configuration.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Or where is this bedroom located?
Yeah.
And you can get a little bit of that from looking on a website.
Uh-huh.
But I think during my first week, Rob then took me out into the field because Rob was doing departure inspections and arrival inspections.
Well, and for years, like, excuse me, like literally maybe until 3 or 4 years ago, anyone that joined Abode, their first like 3 months, they had to go to all the properties with our operations team just on an ongoing basis as if they were on the operations team. Like everyone had to do that. And now it has become kind of impossible because our operations team is really busy. And when people get started in a job here, we don't have 3 months before we actually train them for their role to just take them out and make them like learn all the houses. And because I think with our growth, it's really it's kind of a moot point because you could learn all the houses, but there's so much growth and change that you could learn them, but then 3 months later, there's enough new ones that it's like, it's hard to stay on top of it. So we don't have, like, say if we hire someone into marketing roles, we do want them to go onto our site and we do want them to be out into the houses as much as possible. We don't require that they see every single house multiple times before they get started in their marketing job. But when Tilly came on, that's what she did. I mean, how many weeks do you think you did that?
I can tell you I started in June and I didn't close my first booking
Yeah, I remember this.
until
Okay.
September.
Yeah.
So first of all, have a savings account when you
Right.
start.
Yeah. Well, but not everyone, like when we started, when Tilly started, she was, and our first salespeople, this was always the norm. They were 100% commission.
Mhm.
And I mean, this is crazy. I don't know if this will resonate with people in other companies, but we were paying like, at first we were paying the first guy 10%, which is insane. And then it was like, what, 8 or 6?
It's gone all over the place. Yep.
And obviously it's come down. But at the time, I mean, annual revenue was under $1 million, I think,
Right.
for a little while. And so that's, it changed. But it was
definitely
straight
have
commission.
Even if you're not straight commission,
Yeah.
if you have some type of commission or bonus structure,
It's true.
Start with a savings account because
Yeah.
you don't want to be you want to be hungry but not starving.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to like be in the position where you have to give up.
Yeah, or have to close deals that maybe aren't good for the company.
True that.
I mean, there are definitely some that come through and I'll be like, we don't need that.
Mhm.
We don't need to risk that guest.
Yeah, like someone that just is
Has
fishy.
red flags or things like that.
We're big on that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Just to close it. Or bend our policies
Right.
for
Like
close
on
deal.
minimum stay or they don't-
cancellation.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the most recent one the other day that somebody wanted us to change our cancellation policy. And it's
Oh.
like, no.
Right.
No. Sorry, nah.
Wait, you're not gonna book unless we let you cancel. Well, that just means
Yeah,
you're
that
gonna
means you're gonna cancel.
cancel,
Exactly.
or at
Yeah.
least you have a really high likelihood.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
So, and then with the kind of company language, because a lot of times people would use the address of the house.
Oh, yeah.
Get get one or the other. Either use the address when you're talking to the people
Yeah.
that you work with,
Mhm.
or use the name of the house, which I
Yeah.
prefer because
So we name houses, and I don't think everybody does that. I'm not sure. But so we started from the beginning where we named every house. So all of the houses within our portfolio are named like Abode at Norfolk, Abode on
Woodside,
Woodside, uh,
Abode at quitting
Abode
time.
Dumont Chateau, or whatever.
Right.
Abode is in the name.
Yep.
And you want to talk about that?
It's good because a c it's again, sticks with people. Names are very important.
Yeah.
So even when somebody says Abode or
Yeah. Which they
Adobe,
always say.
it's just a way to kind of gently correct them, but they never forget then.
Yeah.
So they'll always have Abode, 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 and then they'll
Yeah.
remember, "Oh, I need to call this company Abode." And or if they see like a listing, maybe not on our
Yeah.
website, maybe if they see it on another platform, um, we have, you know, we want them to call us directly. And so they'll see like a branded blanket
Yeah.
or a cheese board or something with Abode's name on it.
Yeah. So like Tilly's referring to, like, in our photos on our website and in all of our listings everywhere, we have over the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years begun to, like, well, we do staging for the photos, and in that we put in like mugs of hot cocoa with like a little hot cocoa setup, or wine glasses, next to a fire pit that are logoed, like wine glass tumblers, or throw blankets that have our logo on it. And then that's partly getting our logo into the photos so that anyone who sees our listings can see our brand name. And then the naming convention goes hand in hand with that. So that naming convention of using the company name Abode in the names of the properties, I think it also helps our team, because if we were going by addresses, I think everyone's head would explode. Like the Park City team, there's a right under 150 properties, I think, that we're currently managing, or maybe it's over one. It's right around 150. Um, and so there could be like two numerical addresses that are the same, but like on two different streets. So
Mhm.
that's confusing. Or like maybe it's like 8382, 8283, and it's like confusing. And so we learned that having a name for each property, then people call them that. So like, let's say the one I mentioned, like I forget the full name of this one, but let's say Chat Abode at Abode at Chateau Dumont. Like then people call that Dumont, like within the team. So there's names that our team can use internally, like for operations and stuff. They can refer to a property easily amongst themselves and everybody knows what they're talking about. But then also it's helpful because if someone, wherever they're looking online, and let's say they find that Dumont house, they can then go Google the name of it. Or let's just say they found it on some site, they don't know where they found it, and then they go Google it and it brings them right to our site. And that is like really helpful to help with getting bookings directly off your website.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, we're telling the story. We got to, like, you came onto the team. It took 3 months
Yeah, September was
because you were learning all the properties.
learning and the kind of niche for what people were looking for.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it that's the biggest thing, to really get intimate with the people who are looking for vacations. You want to find out why. Why are you coming here? What's People will tell you I have 12 adults and 3 kids. Okay, great. Is that 6 couples?
Right.
How, like, for bedding, it's very important to know who's sleeping where.
Right.
And if you
How many, like, individual beds do you need? How many people are sleeping? Like, how many pairs of people are sleeping together? How many are kids that can go into a bunk room versus
Right.
adults that don't want to go into a bunk room?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Makes a big difference.
Okay. So you got through that first part.
Mhm.
And then, like, if you had to describe the period of time over, those first few years,
Mhm.
like, how would you
I remember asking
summarize?
Rob, what what is about to happen? Because we were getting close to the holidays, and everyone was just like, "We're gonna be so busy." And I just couldn't understand. Like, what do you mean? What I don't understand why you think we're gonna be so busy. And then I got it. It's like Thanksgiving is a dress rehearsal
Uh-huh.
for a Broadway musical,
Yep.
and Christmas is it. Curtains up.
Yeah.
It
Christmas is
is.
your biggest night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And everything happens. There's a snowstorm. There's Carmageddon.
Mhm.
Remember that one year where all these people had dinner
Yes. Oh
reservations,
my god.
and even though our town is very, very small, it was one day where there's 80,000 people in town.
And it was like the dump of snow, like the big kind of a dump where it's like 2 feet in an hour or
Mhm.
something, was right at, like, say, 6 o'clock when everyone's I think it was New Year's Eve.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and it was like everybody's going to dinner or going out for their New Year's plans, and that was exactly when the snowstorm dumped 2 feet of snow. So everybody was stuck on the roads, like, literally, that doesn't usually happen in Park City because they plow and stuff, but they can't plow if all the cars are out there. So a lot of people had car service, and, the car service companies were stacked, like, hour to hour to hour, and so, like, that first hour, that 6 to 7 of, like, rides for that first shift of dinner on New Year's Eve, all those cars were stuck for like an hour and a half in traffic because of the snow, and then the roads were getting and they couldn't get the plows. And so then that, like, domino affected the rest of the night.
Yep.
So it was like a night where nobody could get anywhere in their cars,
And they're just screaming.
and they're freaking
Yep.
out.
Everyone was very angry at us.
And then, like, a water heater will go out or,
Right.
like, a boiler,
The
like a
normal.
furnace.
Then just the normal stuff. The coffee
Yeah.
maker doesn't work, or my garbage disposal is always
The
clogged.
grill runs out of
Yeah,
gas,
like you could deal with that if it was
but you can't get to their house
right.
because all the roads were, like, completely like, this never happens like, New York, I was just in New York. The traffic in New York, like, it's shocking to me. Like, LA traffic is, like, crazy on the highways. New York was just, like, in every street in the whole town was just, like, car to car to car to
Mm.
Anyway, Park City was like that on Carmageddon. I think we had that 2 years in a row, didn't we?
Ugh.
But anyway, it was, like, this crazy scenario. No one could get you couldn't fix anything. And that, like, what you're referring to as, like, a way to explain, like, how crazy.
Yeah, you just can't articulate it until you're in it,
Yeah.
where you're dealing with a lot of people in-house. If it's a day like December 26th, 27th, 28th,
Yeah.
it's people checking out and checking in.
Uh-huh.
And, like, imagine 40 houses turning over.
Yeah, or now it's, like, 150.
Yep. Yep.
But
And
then in the beginning, you're right, it was, like, 40.
right. And
Yeah.
people, you know, aren't supposed to arrive until 4 p.m., but they'll let themselves in the house anyway. And then the cleaning crew will freak out and they'll probably leave or something like that. And then on top of that, you're still booking people.
Uh-huh.
You still have people calling in who are like, I just checked into this property that I rented and it's a dump, or it's dirty, or, it was a scam. So
Uh-huh.
now I need something.
Oh, yeah, like, people booked with other companies, let's clarify that.
Mhm.
And, like, they get to the house and it's dirty,
Right. Yeah.
or, like, it's not a house that the person who they booked with even manages, it was a scam. There was more of that, like, in the old that's less of that now, I feel like, but there was like, a little bit of time where that was, like, more common.
It happened 2 years ago.
Did it?
Yep, I had a group call me. That's also why when I'm following up and when I finally hit the roadblock of the person saying, "We have booked elsewhere.
Yeah.
We have not chosen your company.
Yeah.
Sayonara," then I still follow up and say, "Thank you for allowing us to help.
Yeah.
Next time you're in Park City, Jackson Hole, or Sun Valley,
Yeah.
feel free to look us up,"
Yeah.
because there is that off chance
Yeah, you're right.
that when they arrive at the place that they
Yeah,
chose
they're
over
super mad
yours,
or whatever. Yeah.
they'll remember Abode.
Yeah, well, because I think what Tilly's saying is, like, so there's the craziness of people being in town and in all the properties being booked at once during a peak season, and then having to deal with whatever issues might come up, which could be weather in our markets, or it can be, like, the regular stuff, like the water heater, the boiler, the hot tub, all the things that can break even with perfect maintenance, like, something's gonna happen, especially more houses, more chance for something to happen, and then throw on top of that, you're still when you're on the reservations team, you're still responsible to answer all the leads that come in and keep booking for future dates. And then there's the people that booked with another company that had some big issue, and then they show up to town and they don't have a place to stay and they're desperately looking for a place to stay. And because if you're a good salesperson and you're good at hospitality, you don't feel like you won unless you made someone happy. And so you're going to scramble and try to get that person a place to stay with
Yep.
Abode. So it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And it's like every year it gets more and more, I feel like, which we're
It
grateful
gets better.
for.
It has.
We have
I
better
say
and better
every year
processes.
it's gotten better because we figure out just better techniques and
Our team is more and more experienced. We develop better and better processes. Like, we make a gazillion mistakes every week, every day. We have for all these years, but we've hopefully learned from a lot of them. And so that makes us better over time. But I think it's crazy. like, when you talk about how making mistakes is a good thing, because I do think it is,
Mhm.
it's crazy how many mistakes are available in the universe to make, because
Right.
you would think we would run out,
I'm
but
constantly shocked where I was like, "This person has worked here for so long, I couldn't even imagine that their mind worked in a certain way to make that error."
Right. But, I mean, I do it all the time. Like, we own this laundromat, and it's me, like, I wanted to work with this contractor that we've worked with for a while to remodel our laundromat, and, like, the day before they were supposed to start doing the remodel, which needs to be done in a really short amount of time because the laundromat has to get back online before Christmas because that's where we do all of our linens, and that guy pooped out on us the day before he was supposed to start, which was last week. And it's like, that was a mistake I made by, trusting someone. And it's like, there's a million mistakes to be made every day. So, like, I do think we have to be in a place mentally. And I think by reading a lot of good books and going to therapy, like I always say, but I think that's what helps us be okay with making mistakes and like being confident that we're going to learn from it. Okay. But anyway, so you're here, you were doing your first season, your first like busy season.
Mhm.
And I don't know, did you have a story from that? Or are you just like, because I mean, to me, it was like we could move from like that first one through, I guess I was wondering, like, I'm always wondering looking for some excavation of nuggets and secret sauce. And I don't know if there was like maybe some nuggets or some delicious sauce that you might have to share with everyone from maybe those first few years versus something that you gleaned from like the middle part of your career, because to me, 9 years is the middle, because Tilly's gonna work here for the rest of her life, which is
Mhm.
probably another, I don't know, 50 years, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Um, do as much ahead of time as possible.
Uh-huh.
So, get the toilet paper in the house, the paper towels, communicate with the guests as much as possible.
Mhm.
Getting arrival and departure times helps
Oh, yeah,
a
that's huge.
ton
That's huge.
because you flights get delayed and canceled and all of that, but you still have a preliminary kind of intention with the guest. Like when I'm booking people and I can see that it's a back to back
Yeah,
when they're arriving and departing, I tell them right then.
yeah,
So the seed is planted. Check in will be at 4 p.m.
yeah,
Check out will be at 10 a.m. And
yeah,
if I know it's a property that doesn't have a garage or a place that we can store their luggage,
right.
mitigate that right at the beginning
Yeah.
because you don't want to have to have some, you don't
To,
want
like,
to,
frustrate someone to
yeah, you
make
don't
it
want to
their
get in your
travel
own
harder.
way
Yeah,
if you can eliminate those types of
yeah. I
challenges.
mean, I feel like Breezeway made our lives so much easier when it comes to gathering the arrival departure information, because now we sort of automate a text message, right, to the
Mhm.
guests, and we do that through
Yep.
Breezeway.
Yep.
We love Breezeway. And I think also Breezeway helped us with better processes, better task management for like stocking the houses, handling what we call our sus, set it up for success. Like
Mhm.
that's one of our inspection processes that we do before an arrival, making sure we have our pre-arrival inspection and like where we go and turn all the lights on and do all that stuff. I feel like that Breezeway for us was like, I don't know, what else do you think? I feel like it was Breezeway, honestly, but I think it was processes. And then once we
Breezeway's
had
been a
Breezeway, it
huge,
facilitated
I
it.
mean, I remember using my cell phone
Mhm.
and 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody texting me and they're like, my door code doesn't work.
Right.
And I was in my pajamas and I got in my car in
Yeah.
my PJs and drove to that house and
Yeah.
unlocked it for the people.
Door codes are like, dude, the door locks, we were really lucky because we had Parakeet and that was pretty good, and then they got bought by Brevo, and then Brevo was pretty awesome. Like, really, they were pretty awesome, but then Brevo went into more of, like, commercial real estate type stuff, like apartment buildings and, office buildings and stuff, and so we, switched to another company recently, and that did not go very well, and now we're looking at switching again, and fingers crossed that it'll go better. But I think having a good door lock system
Mm.
and, being able to communicate those codes to the guests really easily, which I think we do through Streamline, or maybe it goes through Breezeway now.
Through Breezeway.
Yeah. So again, Breezeway communication, like we love it. So that's
And
part of it.
empowering guests, giving them the most
Yes.
knowledge of these are the expectations. You can ask for an early check-in, but it's probably not going to happen.
I think that's like a huge thing for the reservations team. I think you're uniquely qualified to talk about it because we used to have at Abode, we used to have our reservation sales agents check every guest in person. And it was the reservation sales agents that did that, which is kind of crazy now to think about that. But at the
And
time,
stock toilet paper
yeah,
and paper towels
and do
and
like pre-arrival.
yeah.
So like the reservation agents were responsible to meet the guests at the house when they arrived. And that was so great. I wish we could still do that. It's impossible now. But I loved it.
I do cherry pick.
Yeah,
There are some guests I've already kind of dog-eared for. I Whether they're an amazing guest or somebody that
difficult. Yeah.
those are the ones that I feel like I like to
I
take
don't think they'll
on.
listen to this, so they won't know. If you're listening and you get checked in person, don't think it's only because you're a problem
Right, exactly.
guest. Like it might be because we love you, so you'll never know. So just feel
Right?
good about it. Just
Yes.
assume it's the best. But those were the days when
Mhm.
we had the salespeople checking in the guests, and that was a pretty short lived era. Because then we ended up having our operations team also help with that. But there was a time when it was just the person that booked you that met you at the house, and I think that was such good hospitality.
Mhm.
And I know, like, logistically, and just because we don't have clones or whatever, like, we can't do it anymore, but that was so great. It was so great because it was such a good I'm all about, like, service, hospitality, connection, and I think the connection that you build with a guest when someone and this is back in the days when, like, most of our sales were carried out over the phone. And so it's like people talked to someone over the phone or over email, they booked with that person, and then they saw that person face to face at that house they booked when they arrived, like, that was such magic.
I vividly remember you, like, 11 months pregnant with Annabelle, checking in guests at Abode at Town Lift.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. I
Well,
vividly
I
remember
wasn't
that.
very good at it either because I remember, like, that by that point, I had, like, lost the more depth of knowledge of all the houses.
That's how I mean, I appreciated that so much, being able to check in guests, because I could
Yeah.
say, "This is
Mhm.
the quirk of the fireplace." I mean, you'd go and set up your laptop. I'd be booking reservations while the guest is pulling into the
Yes.
driveway,
Yeah.
and you have to get off the phone before they get there, but you do intimately know the house. Sometimes you'd get lucky and be like, "I'm actually sitting in that house right now that
Yeah.
you're asking about." So
Well, and so, like, I still feel really strongly about checking the guests in person. And, after during COVID, after COVID, there was a period of time where people did not want us to meet them at the house. There was a period of time we weren't allowed to. And then there was a bit longer period of time where, like, people were kind of like, "No, don't meet me," like, contact lists, check in, whatever. We don't like people to check in without having a person there. So we kinda got away from it with COVID, and now we've really pushed to try harder to make sure we check every guest in person, and it's still not 100%, and that sometimes has to do with person or the time that they arrive, but anyway, we're striving to get back as close as we can to 100%. We can't have the reservation sales agent salesperson check in the guest because the number of houses and also in Jackson Hole and Sun Valley, that wouldn't work because the reservation sales agents are based out of Park City, so our operations teams check the guests in Jackson Hole and in Sun Valley. But I do think that's really, really helpful, and I think it was just magic when the salesperson was able to do it.
mhm.
I wish that I could, like, think of a way to make that possible to this day, and I don't know, I haven't been able to, but I thought that was pretty, like, awesome.
There were, I was surprised at how many times guests weren't malicious, meaning, like, they didn't book and say there were 4 adults and
Right.
then 15 rolled in or
Yeah.
something. It was never like a surprise
Yeah.
bad thing.
Well, yeah, in the old days, I think any business that's newer, and by newer, I think in our first 5 to 10 years, um, there's more fear when you're in the beginning of a new business, of a small business.
Mhm.
And, newer, again, like, probably in your first decade. 'Cause I love it when people are like, "I've been in the business for 3 years, so I know what I'm doing." It's like 3 years is like the blink of an eye, and not
Mhm.
because I'm old, which I am old, but, like, just because it takes so long to learn from your mistakes. You need to
Yeah.
make a lot of mistakes. But anyway, um, I think, like, what was I gonna say about this? The checking people in wait, what else? I can't remember where I was
Knowing the
going with this.
house.
Knowing well, yeah, of course. If you're the one showing the guests around the house, then you have to know, like, and if you didn't when you got in there, by the time you're done with showing that person around the house, you definitely are gonna remember what all the details of that house because of the adrenaline that gets going when you're, like, worried that you're gonna say it right.
It is it's a unique learning experience because you have to be the right type of person to be humble. And so if you're trying to light a fireplace and you can't get it lit and
Right.
everyone is staring over your
Yeah.
shoulder,
Yes.
being me, a woman, let's say a guy in the group would be like, "Hey, I can do it." You can either be like, "No, I got this," or
Thank
"Awesome, go
you.
ahead, show
Yeah.
me. How are you doing it?" I
Yeah.
remember a house that had door handles that, locked easily, so guests could get locked out of their
Yes.
rooms, and it
Yes.
was always fun for me to grab a kid and be like, "Okay, who wants to learn how to pick locks?" And so you pick somebody in the group who you can
Teach
teach,
how
and
to
then they
pick
have
it.
to teach everybody else,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
it you know, it also teaches you about the group dynamics. I mean, there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of families and I'm like, "Oh, man, you guys are gonna be in therapy for a long time." But
No,
there's
it's
others that
true.
are
I mean,
really
look, it's
grateful.
the connection of
Yeah.
checking the
It's
people in
exactly what it
person.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think I always say this, from the homeowner standpoint, the reason why it's better if you check guests in person is that like you're letting the homeowner know we're going to show them how to start the fireplace because gas fireplace or gas starters, they're notoriously it's like it should be like push it to the right, turn it to the left, and then push it in and it starts. But it's usually like push it to the left, push it to the right, left, right,
Mhm.
push. Okay,
Yeah.
let go. Okay, push it again. Now it'll be on. Like there's always like
Right.
little tricks. And then like, the hot tub, like you don't want it to go into eco mode because then everyone will think it's too cold. And so, but some of the hot tubs, if you push any of the buttons, it goes into eco mode.
Yep.
And so like you have to be able to be there, and be like, let me show you this hot tub. You could push this or this, but don't push this because then it'll go into eco and you'll be calling me freaking out. Or like, okay, here's the grill and it looks like you're supposed to turn it this way and then push this button to start it, but actually you turn it, or whatever, all the little quirks.
It's also a good way to teach guests without having them know you're teaching
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
So you could be like, "Oh, let me Google that." And
yeah,
so then they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, if I don't know how to use this coffee maker, I
yes,
can Google how
yes,
to," because a lot of people when they go on vacation, they
yeah,
could be very, very intelligent people.
yeah,
They check their intelligence at the
totally,
door and
yeah,
are on vacation
yeah.
and they're not
It's like
thinking
if
like
you
they would at
can't turn
home.
the fireplace on with just like a flip of a light switch, then people are going to freak out. And so I think, again, it's the connection of showing someone something in person.
We
Okay,
also turn on music. So
we do.
one of the things that um is this a nugget
Yeah,
or
let's do
secret
it.
sauce?
Give us
Secret
a
sauce? It
nugget.
might be secret sauce.
Okay,
When you're getting a house ready, lighting, I think, is very important,
totally agree.
not only just because of the vibe, but also, is it a light that the light bulb will be easy to replace
Yeah.
when it burns out? Because if you turn on a lamp that's easy to reach versus floodlights overhead that you need a ladder
Well,
for.
we're in mountain locations, so a lot of the
Yep.
houses have like those 2.5 story living room areas with those
Mhm.
giant peaked ceilings, and you might need literally
A
like a crane
scaffolding.
or scaffolding to change light bulbs. This
Yep.
is like a thing that we have
Yep.
hilarious stories on this
Oh
topic,
my
but not
gosh.
for today. Um,
Same with the fire alarms.
right?
Who
Yeah.
puts
Yeah,
those
like some
fire
of those
alarms
smoke
up
alarms.
there?
Yeah. And so
Oh,
like, okay, what were you gonna
yep.
say about
So turn on lights that are easy to replace light bulbs in.
yes?
And then with televisions, everybody has horror stories about AV and
Yeah.
how some houses are like this and some are streaming only and blah, blah, blah. So what we do is it's a very good way to make sure that the Wi-Fi is working, that the TV is working, that we know how to use the
Yeah.
TVs, and we turn on some type of background music
Yeah.
channel or the weather
So we
channel if they don't
check
have
all
that.
this like before, obviously before, well, constantly with our checklist through Breezeway. Um, we check all the Wi-Fi and light bulbs and, everything. But then it's true when you're getting a house ready right before the arrival and which part of our process is to turn on some lights, turn on some music. And then again, like you're checking the Wi-Fi because you're going to turn on something on the TV. Usually like that's how you're turning the music on. Then that's just like your triple check right before the person's gonna walk in the door to make sure all that stuff works. Is that what you mean?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think that is a great nugget actually. In Abode in our business, one of the ways that we've gotten to the place where we have really um, consistent good reviews and happy guests is that we found it's really through inspections, more inspections. And so whether that's more inspections after cleaning so we can catch any mistakes and things that got left out of being cleaned properly, or more inspections on setting the house up, like this is a great way to make sure that you're not letting someone walk into a house without Wi-Fi that's working
Mhm.
or whatever. And I think is that the nugget that is that kind
Mhm.
of okay.
And
So
it sets a vibe.
yeah,
It's a good feeling when you walk into a house that kind of has that
yeah. I've done that.
warm
I
vibe.
have, like, walked into a rental that was just, like, dark. I just did it. I actually just did this. We were in Ocala, Florida, and it's, like actually, this was interesting. So, it's, like, the house was clean, but like no lights on.
Right.
And it didn't feel like ready for us.
Right.
Like we had to kind of find towels. Like
Yeah.
they were under the cabinets, they weren't like hanging.
Right.
And they even had put a bottle of wine in the fridge,
Mhm.
but it was like in a drawer in the
Oh.
fridge. The fridge was empty, so it was clearly left for us.
Mhm.
But it wasn't like, even though it's nice that it was in the fridge and it was cold, it would have been better if it was in the fridge with like a little note next to
Mhm.
it or something.
Or a ribbon, just a
Yeah,
tiny
so
little.
you feel like, oh, they left me a gift.
Right.
Instead of like, did someone accidentally leave a wine
Right.
bottle
Am I
in the
drinking the
fridge?
owner's wine?
Yeah. And it was pretty cheap wine, so I could tell they left it for me. But just kidding.
Mhm.
But I'm not kidding. But
Mine would be in a box.
I love a box. But anyway, like, so I do think that is part of that nugget. So I think lots of inspections and then that one inspection right prior to that arrival. And that is only possible if you do something that she mentioned in another nugget, which is making sure you're getting arrival
Mhm.
information from the guest. And I think I brought this up on other episodes, but we do use Breezeway to do an automated text message to all the guests to ask for their flight information and their arrival time. And we usually have that because we're helping arrange car service and whatnot. But also, we're getting that information so that we can meet them at the house. And even if you're not in a business where you're able to do in-person arrival, like check-ins, if you knew the time, then you'd be able to go to the house or send someone from the ops team to go to the house, turn the lights on, turn the music on, maybe turn the fireplace on, and have everything ready so that when they walk in, they feel like super welcomed. And then, of course, that's the time when you would probably set out your gift basket or whatever kind of a welcome gift if you can do that, which we do, and it helps a lot.
And on the departure time, it helps the cleaning
Yeah.
team know that, okay, this person has a 5 a.m. flight.
Yes.
So I can start at that
Mhm.
house,
Mhm.
especially in super duper busy
So when we
times.
ask for arrival time, we also ask for departure time. Cause like Tilly said, if someone's like their flight isn't until 4 PM, then you're kind of like, okay, we're gonna have to help them figure out a place to go for lunch because there's someone else checking in later that day and they're gonna have to leave by 10. Or like what she said, if someone is gonna leave at 5 AM or like on a 7 AM flight and they're gonna be out of the house by say 5:30, then you can tell your housekeepers, go to that one first. Okay, what about any like nuggets or sauce about sales? Like about I always try to think of like overcoming obstacles or like getting someone to close because a lot of, what we book at Abode is more expensive. And so I'm talking like $1,000 per night average on the low end up to like 20 grand per night on the high end. So you're looking at, like 8 to 100, $200,000 lodging costs for their stay for like a week to 10 days, maybe shorter, maybe 5 days even. And so that can be a decision that I would think would not be an easy one. They'd be like, "Yeah, let's just do it." And so how do you but, like when especially if you're on the phone or over email with someone and you wanna just get that done and you wanna make sure they get their date on the calendar because you don't want someone else to book it and then have them mad at us about not getting the stay they wanted.
Mhm.
I didn't know if you had any.
So if a lead comes in, depends on how it comes in. If I have their phone number,
Mhm.
first and foremost, I'll pick up the phone. And when I call them, it, I can hear in their voice at the beginning because if they answer because they don't recognize the number. I say this is Tilly with Abode in Park City or in
Uh-huh.
Jackson Hole or in Sun Valley, and then you can kind of feel them decompress. Like, oh, okay, good, it's not a solicitor.
Yeah.
And then I make sure is now an okay time to chat.
Yeah.
100% of the time it is.
I say that like anyone I call these days now.
Yeah.
Like, "Are you good to talk right now?"
Well, because somebody will not want to be rude, but
Yeah.
their kids in the background screaming
Right.
or, you try to time when you call them too.
Okay, so when you're calling, you're saying after you say is now okay, then almost 100% of the time they're like, "Yeah, it's good. Let's do this."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a few minutes or I have a meeting, I have another call at 3 or it
Yeah.
also is a kind of a barometer of like, how serious are they?
Yeah.
Because if they don't want to talk and they want to get you off the phone,
Yeah.
I'll follow up with an email later.
Yeah.
But get them on the phone first if you're able to. And that always helps because they might think that they only have one question. They usually have
Yeah.
5, 6, etc.
Like once they find out how knowledgeable you are on the thing, I feel like
Mhm.
they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're actually what you're talking about." Like, "Okay, I actually do have questions." Because they
Right.
probably are assuming that you're like a call center or something.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of times they say, "Where
Yeah.
are you located in X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z, wherever I'm at?" And then if I, for me, if I don't have their phone number and it's a very two-dimensional way of contact or chatting with them back and forth, I won't give them in detail answers.
Mhm.
Like if they're asking, what's the ski access out of this property? How do I
Yeah.
get down to this lodge? I say, you know, it's easy for blah, give them a little bit of an answer, but maybe a chat would be better
Yeah.
and have them get a hold of you if
Yeah.
you don't have their contact number.
Yeah.
I love to talk to people on the phone.
Yeah.
Talking on the phone is almost 100% close.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
that's a nugget is like, if you're trying to sell reservations for vacation rentals, get people on the phone. This is so much harder than it used to be, but
Yeah. And
yeah.
I'll text people also. So I'll talk to them on the phone and then I'll text them. Or even if I email them and I still have their phone number, I'll text them
Okay.
like, hey, just want to make sure that that didn't go to your spam or junk folder.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine how many, I think of my own personal
Yeah.
email. Oh,
Anymore, it's like
I get so many emails that are
Yeah.
just junk emails. So
Totally.
I figure my stuff gets buried.
Okay,
pretty
tactic
quickly.
number 1, get them on the phone.
Mhm.
Okay, what's another one?
Depends on, I wanna know who these people are. Why
Yeah.
did you pick this house? Why are you coming here? It We are in an industry where I've seen it all. I've seen people who are coming here because they're adopting a baby
Mhm.
and they're waiting for the baby to be born. I would never know that
Right.
unless I asked. There are people because of in Park City, the high elevation, we have Olympic athletes
Yeah.
from all over the world that come here to train,
Yes.
and so they need to be at a certain elevation. We have families that ski here every year. We have lots of weddings. We personally don't have properties that host weddings,
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
and there are some properties because, I feel like there are people who will see a house or a ranch that can sleep, 25 plus people for X amount of dollars. That's a lot less expensive than renting out an entire event space and lodging and all that. And
Yeah.
so I will ask people because sometimes people don't want to say we're
Right.
having a wedding at this house.
Well, because they don't want to get, like, some sort of event fee or
Right.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will ask, are you celebrating anything special?
Yeah.
And most often people will be like, absolutely. Our daughter's getting married and we're going to do everything and have 50 people at the house and
Yeah.
rent porta potties and all that. So you can just kind of not be the bad guy, but nip that in the bud right
Yeah.
there.
So, like, our rules are, and this is after a lot of experience, negative experience
Mm.
generally, with people hosting parties or weddings at houses. And this is even when we charge an extra fee. It's generally not gone great. And this is because we manage nicer properties that are very high value in terms of just their real estate value alone and all of the fixtures and furnishings and all that. Um, but that people are looking to find something cheaper than a hotel, because if they're looking to have a wedding in one of our markets, Jackson Hole, Sun Valley, Park City, the hotel minimums are quite large. And so they'll look for a big house and they're like, okay, well, we can rent this house for, let's say, 50 grand, but the hotel minimum is 150.
Mhm.
So this will be cheaper. But what we've done is that we have in our contract for the guests a stipulation that if they have more than the allotment of people that can sleep there at the house, then they have to let us know, or we'll have to, cancel. Like, they'll have to leave and we'll keep the money. So basically, we don't allow parties of any sort at the house without prior approval. And then if they want to have an event, they can ask for approval from our reservations salesperson. We can get that approval from the homeowner. And then we have a large fee. It depends on the house, but it can be 5,000 to like $50,000 just for a fee to have an event there. And that is meant to cut out on people who are looking for a cheaper place to have a party in their head. Because what happens is, because of our sewers and stuff in the mountains, it's not like a city situation. And because of all the really nice high-end wood floors and all that kind of stuff, we end up with houses that get pockmarks all over the wood floors from high heels. They get huge sewage issues,
They move the furniture.
move the furniture and
So the
scratch the floors.
ugh.
And so that ends up being, we lose money on what we have to pay to fix all of that. And so our homeowners are all on board with this. We've explained, like, we're not big on doing weddings. We will have weddings, but there's a lot of stipulations involved. And so that's because we've had guests try to talk their way. So what the nugget that Tilly's giving here is the way that she sniffs out someone that's trying to use a property for a party. Now, we can, if we're worried about it and we think they're not being honest, we can just drop by the house whenever, because according to our contract, we're allowed to do that. If we find that someone's having a party, they have to leave, vacate the premises, and we keep all the money. So that we're pretty clear about that, but the way that we prompt and tell guests during the sales process for that reservation is what Tilly's saying. So she has a really nice way of talking to the guest and sort of asking in a way that encourages them to answer truthfully about what they're coming, what's the purpose of their visit. And a lot of times, of course, in the winter, it's skiing, but she's looking to make sure, are they coming and are they going to have a wedding, basically, or a big party? And then if so, she's going to let them know about what our rules are. And that usually stops people from booking if that was their intention, because they find out that if they lie to us and then they do have an event and we find out, we're going to do a lot of stuff. And then there's also like, fees we can charge them after the fact and all that kind of stuff, like damage waiver stuff and whatever. But so the way that Tilly was saying that, so you want to say that again? Because I just gave a long ass
Yes.
squirrely Rachel explanation.
Yes. Well, and it helps too being in the industry for as long, because you can legitimately tell stories like, I had to call the bride right before she walked down the aisle and say,
this actually happened.
Hey, the caretaker was taking out the garbage and noticed that you have a DJ that you're setting up for in the living room.
Like an arch with flowers.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's happened a few times. So it's easy to say that in the beginning before they've booked.
Yes.
And tell them.
Like it's all there in our contract and on our website, but it's like sometimes you just got to tell people.
But without, let's just say they just write a blank, very generic email. Hey, we like your place. There's going to be 25 of us for these dates. And I write back and say, awesome, sounds perfect. Are you celebrating anything special?
Right.
And that usually will kind of disarm the person enough to be like, actually, yes.
Yeah. Whereas like if you were to say, because this has happened, I think, where we said,
if I say,
well, are you having a wedding?
Right.
And then they're like, no. Yeah. And then they do. And then drama ensues.
You search on the internet and find their listing on the Knot.
Yeah.
Or
we see all their pictures from Facebook of them getting ready to have their wedding. And then the homeowner sees it too. And then, yes. I feel like Tilly and I could talk for like 5 hours and it would feel like 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm serious. Though.
I know.
I think it's been like an hour. Is that right?
Yeah.
Helen's here. Helen is our producer. And she I saw her looking at her phone earlier, like looking at the time. Because we usually go between like 30 minutes and an hour. But I feel like usually the guest, like the person on the team that I'm talking to, like tempers it. It's kind of like how my husband is with me when we have like client meetings or whatever.
Should I tap you underneath the table?
He kicks me. And then usually if Rob kicks me under the table during a meeting, I'll just be like, why did you kick me? Because I want him to learn not to do that anymore.
Oh gosh.
But because like if I'm vibing. But but anyway, says the 46-year-old person who should not be saying I'm vibing. But anyway, I feel like Tilly and I are two people that would not be catching ourselves in long conversations. Like you're not someone like I don't know, like I talk
the
with
sun could
2B.
go down and we could be like, oh,
it would
wow.
be like 2 a.m. and I'd be like, it's not lunchtime? Yeah. Okay, but so we should probably do another episode too later on because this is like a multi-part series.
Oh, there's so many stories. And that's, being in this industry for as long as we have, it does help with that toolbox of.
Well, you're a really good story rememberer. Tilly is the person on our team that like when we want to collect stories, all Tilly, like she just has them stashed like a filing system in your brain.
I have a superpower of just crazy remembering.
I know. I can't remember.
It's good and bad stuff.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, the yin and the yang, it's fine.
Yes. I do like it when people ask me about our contract because, I think that sometimes they try to flex and say, well, let me read your rental agreement first.
Right. Like I'm an attorney. Let me look at the agreement.
Yeah. Or my brother-in-law is an attorney. That's always my favorite. And I'm like, awesome. I'll send it over.
Yeah.
And please just have he or she call me because I can go line by line and tell you stories about why that clause is in there. And I use it as my therapy.
Yeah.
And usually they don't say anything.
Right. Then they're like, okay,
never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So let's try and recap nuggets here. This is gonna be hard. Okay. There's the nugget about, the one we just did about like, how do you kind of catch someone or prompt them to be honest with you about, are they going to have like a wedding or a party?
And it is also good to know. If they say we're celebrating our 65th wedding anniversary, like I need to know that. That sounds awesome. We're going to just get you the frame and,
A lot of times people are like, oh yeah, we're celebrating our wedding anniversary and we're going to have 10 friends over. And we're like, great, that's totally fine.
Yep.
And then we'll help them with our concierge set up their party and make it perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's not always about like catching someone. It's sometimes about helping people.
Exactly.
Okay. There's that one. There's the one about getting people on the phone. Like if you're trying to close a sale, get them on the
Absolutely.
phone.
Absolutely.
There's, oh my God, I'm not going to remember
And
this.
the art of, the speed of closing, if I haven't overcome their objections, or, right now we're in the time where literally people will lose out on their first choice.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It's not a sales pitch. It's the fact that inventory is low and demand is very high right
Yeah.
now. And so I will tell people, I understand that you need to go talk to your other family or whatever. Pick a second and third choice if they are available,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it does break
Yeah.
my heart when I think that this would be a perfect house for them. They call me back
It's already
24
booked.
hours later and it's
Yeah.
like, sorry.
Or 12 hours
Right.
later.
And they're like, what happened? Well, it
Like,
got booked.
Yeah. It's like people book online all night
Right.
long now.
Yep, exactly.
So that's another nugget is like if someone says, if you're trying to close them on email, text, or phone, and you're a reservation salesperson in vacation rentals, and the person's like, let me get back to you tomorrow. I got to talk to my crew. I think it is really good to like just remind them
Mhm.
that, everything is open for anyone to book.
Right.
So you just have to, like, if you're not ready to book, have some other backup choices.
Right.
And I think that's a great way to like really make them get real with like
Right.
how high the odds are that
Yeah.
it could book. Okay.
Here's the thing that we're working on right now
Yeah.
in the sales department. So Park City, we're all here right now. We have the office in Jackson. We have the office in Sun Valley. And so I'm really, really honing in on the guys here as a tactic to close people. Ask the question of, if the owner says yes, are
Yeah.
you ready to book today?
Yeah.
Because in Park City, it's not as big a deal, but in Jackson or in Sun Valley, let's say
Some
somebody
homeowners need approval.
Well, and
Yeah.
it gets if you're going to have the guys in Jackson or the guy in Sun Valley go on
Yeah.
a wild goose chase and measure a garage,
Yes. Yes.
and the person's really not going to book, or if either of those markets have to reach out to the owner to get permission, that
Yeah.
the owner is going to breathe down their throat and be like,
Did
did
it
it
book?
book? Did it book? Did it
Yeah.
book? And
Yeah.
so why send them on a wild
Right,
goose
because
chase?
we're
if-
bothering the owner and they're
Right.
like, why did I even read your email and respond to you so fast?
Right.
If this person was just,
Exactly.
dicking around.
So
Yeah.
so be accountable on your end before you're hitting the
Yeah.
bushes and getting everybody all in a
Yeah.
tizzy.
No, totally. Okay. Honestly, there's too many nuggets for
There's
me
so
to
many
recap.
nuggets.
So
Yeah.
here's what I think.
Just rewind it and listen to
Yeah.
it again.
Or
Mhm.
Tilly's on LinkedIn, right? Like, what would, if someone is, let's just say there's someone listening besides my mom.
Mhm.
And they're like, okay, they said so much good stuff. Tilly has so much, and I can't remember. And they're like, I need to talk to her. How would they get a hold of you?
Honestly,
Your
the best
email?
thing is email.
Okay. So
Yeah.
all of our emails at Abode are at abodeluxuryrentals.com. So it's A-B like boy, O-D like dog, E, luxuryrentals with an S.com. So Tilly's is Tilly at abodeluxuryrentals.com.
Yeah.
So for our thousands and millions and billions of listeners and everyone who is dying to get more juicy nuggets and secret sauce from Tilly.
I love it. I
Reach
do.
out.
I mean, I was in Maine this summer and I was sitting at a brewery and there was a couple next to me. And of course, I'm painfully extroverted.
I'm shocked.
Painfully extroverted. Have to talk to everybody. Come to find out they, own a house on a lake and then rent out a couple cabins
Okay.
and things like that. And she does it on her own. And I was like, if you ever, I am happy to give you any kind
Has
of.
she been working you over?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
I think she's so new that
Yeah.
they're still putting paint on walls and
Oh,
things
okay,
like that.
okay.
But I love what we do.
I do too. Right? That's why we're doing
Well, we
this.
wouldn't be in it for so long.
But that's why we're doing the
Yep.
podcast too. Because I feel
Yep.
like finally, like all the years of imposter syndrome, which I still have, but like I get it now. Like our company, our team, like we know what we're doing.
Right.
Most people here have been here for a while. Like we learned through trial and error and through fucking it up. We learned through like the grit and the muck. So like we know.
Right.
And not just because like we think we're smart or what, like we actually know. We did it the not smart way. And then we got smart slowly, very slowly over time. And so I do think it's like only right. Especially like, I don't know, I'm 46, like Tilly's, 10 years younger than me, but like
51 and a
No.
half.
But I feel like it's like we're old enough. It's like we can be like, okay, we kind of know what we're doing, right? Like younger people
And
can
happy
also
to
do that.
happy
but
to share my foibles
Yeah.
if somebody can learn and vice versa.
It's
If
like the
somebody
time
has a
of
better
life.
way to do it, let me know.
It's the time in our life where like the right thing to do
Mhm.
the good karma.
Leave the legacy.
Yeah, well, it's like share it with other
Yep.
people, right? Like you work really hard so that you can make money, so that you can know what you're doing. You do that. It's the second mountain, man.
Right.
It's like that's your first climb. And then your second climb in the second half of your life is like, how are you sharing that? How are you helping others? Because
Right.
it's not so much the grind of like, can I pay my bills? But it's like the grind of like, now what?
Mhm.
You know, I love what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And what do I do with that? Because I still want to be like going all the time.
Yep.
And part of the going all the time is the sharing at this point. So I feel like that's what this podcast is. And I also feel like that is really great when you're someone who likes to talk a lot.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like then you're readily available to share easily. So thank you for doing this with me.
Absolutely.
You're totally doing it again. We're
I'm
definitely
happy
going to
to.
do this again.
Happy
'Cause
to.
not everyone likes to like really talk and I have to like pull stuff out of people. But with you, it was like smooth sailing.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to do more. And I think we should. I did an episode with Mark, who works under Tilly on the sales team. And then we also have Chance and Chris. And so we need to bring them on too, because we can do some episodes separately with them to do more reservation sales talk. But in the meantime, I guess we can sort of stop here.
Sure.
Since we've talked. This might be our longest episode yet. I think it's our 8th episode, maybe 8th. And I think it's our longest. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And we could keep going.
I mean, we could do another hour, like no
I know.
problemo. But I have a
We would need
appointment.
some box wine.
Yeah, box wine. Iced with ice. But alas, I must get my nails done. So, all right. So to all of our tens of thousands of listeners
And Rachel's mom. Hi, Rachel's mom.
thanks for listening. And I hope you come back and listen again. But for now, we're going to sign off. But thanks for listening to the Hospitality Breakroom Podcast. And we'll see you next time.